Welcome to my second episode of What People Miss. Today, I invite you to notice what I call trauma drive in your way of being. Yeah, I actually did not make that term up. Um, However, my antidote to trauma drive, I did, of course, make that word up. Let's begin with what is trauma drive. So, when you say, I should have done this, that person's always keeping me from being great, or, man, I just hate when I do this, or I hate when I do that. Does that sound familiar? Is that something that you say to yourself quite often? Basically, what you're hearing is what people call autopilot, right? You go into an automatic way of thinking, an automatic way of being, and your friends, right? Your friends are like, yeah, girl, I know what you mean. I should have done so and so. And your children always keep you from being great, don't they? Well, I'm here to tell you, contrary to popular belief, it's actually not your fault. You heard me right. Yes, I agree with the experts who say that you created that. But here's the thing about creation, right? In this case, it's one part etched in your DNA. That means that when you were conceived, when your parents were creating you, they also had this way of being within them. And so that's within you. Secondly, when you came out, right? For 2 years, you're observing. Your children are like sponges, right? So for 2 years, you were observing this way of being in your home environment. And then you left the home and went to school and you observed other people's ways of being. And then you got a job when you got out of school and you experienced more and more of the same autopilot dysfunction. And as a result of those two things, now your body, your wise, intelligent body, wants to protect you. So, in order to accustom you to that way of being, it armors up your nervous system so that your brain will create patterns of fear and worry and culminating into what we call anxiety and depression because your ego wants to protect you. So, yes, you created it and it's not your fault. It's just your body's way of protecting you. So, let we begin what I call joy drive, right? So, joy drive is where when you notice this way of being, you don't like say, oh no, I'm grateful and start doing cartwheels. That's not joy drive. Joy drive is kind of taking what I talk about in detached love, transforming your heart so that you can transform your mind. That 90-second process of being with all the things that are coming up, the flurry of worry and fear and all the things. And just hanging in there, just like when you scroll on social media, right? You see one thing and you're like, oh, I don't agree with that. But you keep scrolling and you keep watching, right? So you get to do this with your internal flurry of emotions. And just like when you scroll on social media, you get to see another reel of how you feel and experience that with no filter. And at the end of the 90 seconds, you get to say, "Whew, I just did that. I release that way of being that created all those emotions I just experienced." Yeah, I did skip a couple of steps. There's a little bit more to it than that, but basically, give that a whirl and see how that works for you. If you are interested in really embracing Joy Drive, though, you know, my call to action is reach out to me. I have ways, right, to support you with that. The 13 weeks to Let's Play with Intimacy starts on January 13th. This cohort for the United States, I'm going to say, begins on January 13th. And during those 13 weeks, we will get into the steps between that internal scrolling over the 90 seconds and getting to the other side of that um, with the releasing of those ways of being. Now, the good news is there is a second cohort that is already in the enrollment process for those of you who may be in other time zones, specifically UK, CET, Central European Time, or I guess that also coordinates with the West African time zone. And quite possibly, no, it would not help those of you who are in like Bali or India. Maybe India might be pushing it. But so that second cohort is beginning on February 3rd. Okay. And then the next cohort that I'll be enrolling for will be in April. So, like I said, and also I will be, you know, throughout this year, unlike last year, I will be having this cycle of 2 months, right? One American time zone, one European time zone, a pause for a month, and then again, I'll be enrolling for two different time zones again. So if you miss the January and the February, there's always going to be the April and the May. We'll skip June, and then there'll be, you know, other cohorts throughout the year. But either way, I invite you to try this on your own, right? Um, what I'm moving away from this year is selling my um, my programs. I'm not going to sell you anything. I am only in living in a world of enriching kindness for myself and inviting the same for all of you who listen to my podcast, read my newsletters, and follow me on social media. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you for those of you who are new and those of you who are true and blue and been around for the whole 10 years that I've been in business. So thank you so much for supporting my work and for reading my newsletters, for listening to my podcast. Originally, it was the Replenish Me show, and then it graduated into the Free to Be show, and now we have What People Miss. And I want to acknowledge you first and foremost because you're choosing to listen so that you can support yourself and change your way of being. You're looking for answers. And you continue to come back as often as I produce content so that you can get those answers and experiment with the stuff that I share. And I appreciate it. I deeply appreciate it because what you don't know is by you doing that, you keep me encouraged. You keep me in my own personal work. I would not be where I am today without your encouragement, without your support. And so um, I continue to be in the subtle noticing of who I am because of you. I want to serve myself and create wholeness for myself and healing. And that's how I began this work. And I want to say, and I mentioned this in the first episode, it had to have been August or September of 2024 when I really was feeling the need to slow down, the need to not. And I was more in the being of being than I'd ever been. And that's what led me to choose to start working at a grocery store because I wanted to be with normal people, and the most normal thing that you can do is go to a grocery store, right? Everybody has to eat. And I get to have conversations with hundreds of people every day. Yes, for a few moments, but by being in those conversations, it's helped me to be a reflection, to see a reflection of myself, and to understand who I'm being, how I'm being. And in that time frame, I also had a few retreats, right, at the end of 2024. And the final retreat was in Bali. And can I just say, I love volcanic energy. I love it so much. It really settles my soul. It supports my nervous system. And it really helps me to be in the complete noticing of who I am. And it really slows me down. It's like the heat of the lava below the surface is like the blood in my body. The waves in the ocean are like the breath in my lungs. And that combination of being with everything I experience and feeling. Bali is actually one of the 7 vortexes in the world. And so feeling the energy and being with the energy of the vortex that Bali is changed my world this time. It really did because I went there with the intention to embrace slowing down. I went there with the intention to pour into the women that had shown up for the Love Awaken retreat. And by extension, seeing my reflection, right? Because we are, we're always seeing the reflection of ourselves whenever we are interacting with other humans. And so think about that. What do you miss about your interactions with other humans? Who do you see? What do you say? What are you missing? My invitation with this episode is to graduate from trauma drive. And you can make that choice today. You can make that choice in this moment. Thank you again for your support. And I acknowledge you and appreciate you. And I acknowledge you for continuing your healing journey and embracing wholeness. Choose joy and pleasure. Until next time, be in the noticing of what